Judaism is one of the oldest and most influential religions in the world, with a rich history spanning over 3,000 years. It is a monotheistic faith that originated in the Middle East and is centered around the belief in one God who created the universe and continues to guide and protect humanity. Throughout its history, Judaism has undergone numerous transformations from the ancient practices of the Israelites to the modern-day traditions of Jewish communities around the world. In this video, we will explore the beliefs, practices, and history of Judaism, as well as its impact on the world today. By delving into the fascinating world of Judaism, we hope to gain a deeper understanding of this important religion and its place on our global community.
Judaism is one of the oldest religions in the world, with a rich history and a deep spiritual tradition. But how did it all begin? According to Jewish tradition, the first person to establish a covenant with God was Abraham, who lived around 2000 BCE in what is now modern-day Iraq.
Moses, I give to you the way to live. I give to you my 10 commandments. Remember them. Teach them. Teach them for the rest of time.
Fast forward a few centuries to the time of Moses, who was chosen by God to lead the Israelites out of slavery in Egypt. It was on Mount Sinai that Moses received the 10 Commandments, a pivotal moment in Jewish history.
Wandering in the wilderness. The people of Israel refused to trust God and go into the Promised Land. They complained to Moses. The people wanted to return to Egypt. They preferred to be a slave than to obey God. God made them wander in the wilderness for 40 years. For 40 years, they wandered in the wilderness. God continued to take care of them. He gave them manna to eat and water to drink. He made sure their clothes didn't wear out. He guided and protected them every day. God took care of them, but the people still complained. One day they complained to Moses they were thirsty. God told Moses to speak to a rock. But Moses was so angry he struck the rock with the staff. God was not pleased with Moses. He said Moses would not enter the Promised Land. The people kept complaining. The Lord was upset. He always cared for them, but they were not thankful. God let poisonous snakes into the camp. The people said they were sorry. God told Moses to put a bronze snake on a pole. If the people looked at it and had faith, they would be saved.
After the Israelites were freed from slavery, they wandered in the desert for 40 years before settling in the land of Israel. Over time, Jewish religious practices and beliefs developed, including the laws and spiritual found in Torah, the Jewish Holy Scripture.
The Jews retreat behind the mighty defenses of the walls of Jerusalem. These walls are Titus' main problem. Jerusalem is built on a hill and surrounded by 3 fortified walls, each stronger than the other. To breach such a wall, Titus must raise huge earthen ramps and bring up siege towers and battering rams to breach it.
The Jewish people have experienced periods of exile and persecution throughout history, including the destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem by the Romans in 70 CE. However, despite these challenges, Judaism has endured as a major world religion with a rich and diverse cultural and religious heritage. Today, Judaism continues to inspire and guide millions of people around the world, providing a deep sense of connection to the divine and to each other.
The Jewish people firmly believe that the universe was created by a singular God, whose greatness and power are beyond comprehension. Furthermore, they hold the steadfast belief that every Jew can establish a unique and intimate connection with this divine entity, which persists even the most things of times. In fact, Jews hold to the notion of an actively involved deity who operates in a myriad of ways throughout the world, affecting each and every one of their daily lives. To the Jewish community, their bond with God is far more than mere faith, but alter a solemn and binding covenant between them and the divine entity, a spiritual construct that they honor in all aspects of their lives.
Hi everyone, good day. I am Althea D. Mendador and I am assigned to tackle about the religious belief of Judaism. So now, let's proceed. What is the form religious belief of Judaism? Judaism is a religion founded on the principle of estrangement, monotheism, the firm belief in the existence of one single, indivisible, and uncompounded God. The Shema Israel, which is one of the most significant and recited Jewish prayers, serve as the poignant reminder of the monistic nature of Judaism. The prayer affirms the fundamental tenet of Judaism, the exclusive worship and devotion to one and only true God, with the following words, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one." What are the three practices of Judaism? The Jewish faith contains the three major traditions, which are named Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform, while the denominational groups within this tradition are referred to as movements. Various sects have developed within Judaism throughout history. Today, the most prominent division exists between traditionalist Orthodox movements like Haredi and religious Zionist, that is, sects, modernist movement like conservative, Masorte, and Reform Judaism, and secular or Hellenic Jews. Religious belief. Most Jews believe in one eternal and incorporeal God who created the universe. The Torah is considered to be the supreme ruler's gift to us, consisting 613 positive and negative commandments, which serve as regular guides for life. Observant Jews also consider the Talmud and Jewish law to be a guide for daily behavior, while some Jews view the Torah as a guide for moral and spiritual living without the obligation of law. These guidelines are meant to apply to all Jews regardless of denominations. So now, let's talk about the practices of Judaism, which will be tackled by Ms. Lumen.
Thank you, Ms. Mendador. And hello everyone, I am Rufa May Lumen. So now, let's talk about the practices of Judaism. So there are many practices associated with Judaism. First is observance of the Sabbath. Jewish people observe the Sabbath, which begins at sundown on Friday and ends at sundown on Saturday. During this time, they refrain from work and spend time with family, attend synagogue service, and study the Torah. The second practices of Judaism is prayer. Prayer is an important part of Jewish life, and there are specific prayers for various occasions, including daily prayers and prayers for holidays and special events. The third one is keeping kosher. Kosher refers to food that is prepared according to Jewish dietary laws, which dictate what foods are allowed and forbidden, as well as how they must be prepared and eaten. The fourth practices of Judaism is observance of holidays. Jewish people observe many holidays throughout the year, including Passover, Hanukkah, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Number 5 is study of Torah. The Torah is central text of Judaism, and Jewish people study it throughout their lives to learn about God's teaching and laws. The last one is Tzedakah. Tzedakah refers to charitable giving, which is considered giving a fundamental part of Jewish life. Jewish people are encouraged to give generously to those in need.
In addition to these practices, social justice is also an essential component of Jewish life. Jews are instructed to care for the poor, the sick, and the disadvantaged. In Judaism, social justice is not just a good and deed. It is a core religious principle. These are just a few of the many practices associated with Judaism which serve as a guide for a life of spiritual fulfillment and moral righteousness. However, Each individual practices of Judaism may differ depending on their personal belief in the specific branch of Judaism to which they belong.
Get ready to immerse yourself in the world of Judaism as we present a captivating video showcasing the diverse religious practices of this ancient faith. Brace yourself for an illuminating journey into the central tenets and rituals of Judaism, including prayer, Sabbath day observance, adherence to dietary laws, and many more. This video also offers a rich insight into the cultural traditions of this rich faith. So sit back and enjoy this fascinating exploration of Jewish religion and cultural.
You may be Jewish yourself, or have Jewish neighbors who look like this, or this, or this. No matter how they look, all Jews are part of a single nation with ancient roots that go all the way back to biblical times. And to understand what Judaism is all about, you have to go all the way back to the beginning. The very beginning. It all starts with God. Now, let's get this out of the way. When I talk about God, I don't mean this guy. God has no body, no gender, no limitations. He created everything we see and everything we don't see. The stuff we like and the stuff we don't like. The story of Judaism begins way before there was Judaism, in a time when people worshipped nature or idols made out of stone and metal. Everyone thought that was normal. But there was a little kid named Abraham, and he realized that these idols were fake and powerless. When he grew up, he and his wife Sarah started pushing this radical ideology called monotheism, or one godism. God chose them and their children to continue this special legacy and dwell in a designated homeland known today as the Land of Israel. Abraham had 2 sons, and then Isaac had 2 sons, and then Jacob also had 2 sons, plus 10 more sons. And those 12 sons, together with their children and grandkids, became known as the 12 tribes of Israel. This family, made up of the 12 tribes, had to leave their homeland and ended up as slaves in Egypt. Why? It's a long story, but let's just say some rainbow coats and sibling rivalries were involved. The population exploded, and before too long, this family sprouted into a nation. 210 years later, God freed them from slavery. After 40 years of wandering in the desert, they made it to the Promised Land, where for the first time they could serve God together as one nation, their own language, their own government, and their own customs. Now, all of these stories are recorded in the central text of Judaism, the Torah. The Torah comes directly from God, who taught it to Moses and the whole nation. Moses wrote it down, and that's why the Torah is also called the 5 books of Moses. The Torah is written in Hebrew, and it's jam-packed with stories. But it's not just a history book. The word Torah actually means instruction, and that's mostly what the Torah deals with. There are 613 laws or mitzvahs written in the Torah. For Jews, these laws are binding, and they permeate every aspect of our lives, from the way we get married or divorced, to the way we eat and even how we tie our shoes. For example, kosher. You've probably heard the word kosher before, or at least you've seen it written on a jar of pickles. But what does it mean? Kosher is God's special diet for Jewish people. There are certain species of animals that we're not supposed to eat, like pigs or shellfish. And for the animals we can eat, there's a specific method for slaughtering it, making sure all the blood is removed, and stuff like that. The Torah also says not to mix meat with milk or dairy products, so in a kosher home, meat and dairy are kept completely separate. Same goes for kosher restaurants and factories that make kosher products. Another famous mitzvah in the Torah is the mitzvah of Shabbat, the 7th day. In the beginning, God spent 6 days creating the universe and rested on day 7. So the Torah commands us to also rest on the 7th day and take a day off from all types of work, from sunset on Friday until nightfall on Saturday. It's the holiest day of the week, and by leaving our cell phones behind for 25 hours, we can experience the true spiritual power of Shabbat. Giving tzedakah, charity, is also a big one. The Torah teaches us that everything we have comes from God, and when we use our money and our time to help those in need, we are, in a sense, repaying some of God's blessings. Actually, the word tzedakah doesn't literally mean charity. It means just, or right. So when we give tzedakah, we're not only donating our stuff to be nice, we're allocating God's resources to the right places. It's just part of our job. Visiting the sick, honoring your parents, not wearing certain types of fabrics, the list goes on. Along with the text, God gave us a system for understanding what the Torah means. That system is called the Oral Torah, because it wasn't originally written on a scroll, but rather transmitted orally from generation to generation. The Oral Torah was discussed and debated over centuries by the most brilliant Torah experts, or rabbis. And eventually, it was also written down and compiled into a large corpus of books known as the Talmud. One of the first things you'll notice about the Talmud is that unlike the written Torah, the Talmud is full of questions. What time does Shabbat begin? Why do we celebrate Hanukkah? When did the book of Job take place? How many daughters did Jacob have? These questions don't always have straightforward answers, and many are still debated today. So every Jewish community has a local rabbi who's well-versed in the Talmud and is able to provide background and guidance on any Jewish question that comes up. We spend a lot of time studying the laws of the Torah and trying to understand its details, because we want to make sure we're living exactly the way God wants us to. But there's also a deeper reason.
The commandments aren't just beautiful rituals. Each mitzvah is a profound connection to God, endowing our lives with deep meaning, joy, and purpose.
Jews pray 3 times a day, evening, morning, and afternoon. The idea is to connect and foster a relationship with God. The world is dark and problematic, so God challenged us, the people, to help him perfect it. When we do a mitzvah, pray, or study Torah, we reveal a little more of God's light and power into the world around us. And as we bring more and more light into the world, we're getting closer and closer to the era of Mashiach, a time of peace, prosperity, and divine awareness. Mashiach. Ever hear the word Messiah before? That's where it comes from. A Jew is anyone with a Jewish mother, or anyone who converts to Judaism the way Jewish law prescribes. But when you look around, you might notice that some Jews seem to be more committed to observing the laws of the Torah than others, at least on the surface. But what's important to keep in mind is, no matter how religious or observant a Jewish person may be, they are and always will be Jewish. Some Jews might even claim to believe in other religions, or no religion at all. In God's eyes, they will always be a part of the Jewish nation. So what about people who aren't Jewish? Is Judaism not for them? Well, they don't have to keep kosher or observe Shabbat, or keep most of the 613 commandments. But interestingly, there are 7 commandments which God addresses to all humanity. Unlike most religions, Judaism is not evangelical. If you meet a rabbi on the street, he probably won't try to convert you or convince you that Judaism is the only way to get into heaven. Because for us, it's not about what happens in the afterlife, but rather what we do here on planet Earth. God created this place because he wanted us, each of us, to be a part of his story. Judaism isn't just a religion because if you're not religious, you're still Jewish. It also isn't just a race or a heritage because Jews come in all races.
As we near the end of our discussion on Judaism, it becomes clear that this particular religion hinges on a number of fundamental principles. So firstly, there is a concept of monotheism, the belief in one all-encompassing deity. And alongside this, Judaism also advocates for values such as equality, social justice, and fairness. So moreover, it places great emphasis on studying the Hebrew Bible and following the teachings therein, as exemplified by the 10 Commandments. These beliefs have contributed to making Judaism a unique and highly distinct religion when compared to others around the world. And despite these differences, however, it is worth noting that the notion of the single God is also shared by many other major religions. Indeed, regardless of one's religious background, there is often a common thread of belief in an ultimate divine force. In this respect, Judaism shares much in common with other faiths, and all would speak to universal human experiences that prompt us to seek out the meaning of direction in our lives.
In conclusion, After observing all major religions of the world and how the religion begins, Christianity and Islam are different in their concept of worshipping, fasting, festivals, and tradition. I found significant things in all major religions that they believe in one God and accept of God's existence, no matter whom we are and belongs which religion, but at the end of the day all stand up on the single platform of the God. Many people of sensitivity and perception, whether they have a religious faith or not, view with dismay the growing materialism of this age. To anyone who is in the least alive to the contemporary God, the general life of this country, despite many virtues, exhibits all the symptoms of God deficiency. For the present generation is, albeit unconsciously, attempting to prove that the man can live by bread alone. The good life is conceived almost entirely in terms of creative comforts, labor-saving appliances, better clothes, better and longer holidays. For when possessions, pleasures, and the thought of physical security fill a man's horizon, he ceases to ask himself such basic questions as, what am I or what am I here for? He may gain the whole world, but he will lose his own soul. Ultimately, the worship of God within Judaism takes a highly focused and devoted form. This points to the religion's enduring commitment to its core tenets and the importance of spiritual connection with the divine. Through it all, the emphasis remains on God's everlasting nature, one that remains constant and immutable throughout all of human history.